Asia Pacific webinar workshop series. This webinar series features the work of GAIA members. This was also started as a response to member requests to continue learning even during lockdowns when they are unable to go out and learn face-to-face in face-to-face sessions. So today's topic is composting at home. Our speakers are experienced composters, whether at home or helping set up systems in institutions or working with local governments. I will introduce each speaker as they present. They are given 20 minutes per presentation. And please hold your questions until after each speaker, all the speakers have presented. Or you may type it in the chat box. And after the speakers, we will have time to ask questions. We have about 20 minutes before we wrap up. If there are also questions that we won't be able to get to in the duration of this webinar, we will be collecting them and posting them on Facebook and get our panelists to respond to them through the GAIA social media page. So let's go straight to our first panelist. Our first panelist is Fictor, Ferdinand, or Piki. He's a plant ecologist by training. He works for YPBB, an organization, a member organization of GAIA in Indonesia. He's also a composter. His favorite pastime is tinkering with the soil, enjoying the food he grows, and fermenting everything. So Piki is currently the managing director of YPBB. Everyone, please welcome Piki.
Okay, shall I present now? Okay. Bo, can I share my screen for this?
Yes, Trish will make that happen.
Okay. I think
Hi, Piki. You can share your screen now.
Okay. Everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Everyone see?
Yes, yes.
So, hi everyone. My experience to have a plan of garden next week. So I guess this will sound a little bit related to your. So most of my posting experiences, I have it from working IPB for the last 10 years. Like we believe that human can have the best life qualities, health, happiness, if we live life that is in correspond to nature. So the entry point to achieve that is through zero waste issues, our zero waste campaign. Through our zero waste campaign, we wanted to show that our waste is not only affected nature's health, but also ours. Like in the case of plastic, which enters our body through our food, and that we can make a better world and a better life without waste. And thus our waste cities program is an attempt to scale up the campaign, so that through the program we transform waste management system to achieve zero leakage. Over time, systematically reduce the residual waste, so all material can be disposed on site. Why compost? For me, it's part of my zero waste research network, research work. Uh, Composting is not only important aspect of my work, but also the to like composting then waste.
Vicky?
Yep.
Vicky? We cannot understand your presentation because it's breaking up. It's very slow connection, I think. So can we go to Shibu first then?
Yeah.
While we fix the problem.
Okay.
We apologize for the technical issues.
Hello, Bo. Am I audible
Yes.
and my slides are on screen?
Yes. Thank you, Shibu.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good afternoon to all, and thank you for being here to join a small webinar on organics management. So this is all about managing organics, which is one of the major challenges for any of the municipal solid waste management programs or systems across the world. And when it comes to Asia, most of our waste, when you look at the waste stream, it's mostly organics. It ranges from 70 to 60 to 80% of our municipal waste is mostly organic, and it is wet. And so that's the one of the challenge for people where you have a waste management program without segregation at source. So segregation at source actually take away half of the problem, or more than 60% of the problem. If you do segregate your waste, you are solving 60% of the waste, 60% of the issue. So the problem is that organics is mostly water. If you look at the organic part of your waste stream, it is mostly water. Around 80% of it is water. So when you just think about a waste management scheme in a city where the trucks are coming and from the doorstep they are collecting not waste, they are collecting water, and they are just transporting to one central point. So that is actually a kind of a wastage of resources, wastage, like they are actually wasting on fuel. So if we can do manage organics in our backyard or in our it's called a proximity principle. Like you manage your organics at the source. If not at the source, you can do in the community or in a common facility for a smaller neighborhood. So that is the idea of this presentation. So when we talk about organics management, people just think about, okay, we don't know about organics management, or we don't know composting, and we want to know compost. So let me start with a statement that composting, you know it. I'm not teaching anything new to you, because, or I am not going to explain anything new, because every single person knows about composting. So what is it? When you say organic material, so what is it? It is, there are slow decaying materials, there are putrescible, and there are highly putrescible. If you just look at the organic waste, generally people say, okay, we got organic waste, or we got biodegradable waste. When you look at the biodegradable waste component of a waste stream, there are three, you can just classify, broadly you can classify it into three. One is low decaying, one is putrescible, and the third one is highly putrescible. Slow decaying, we know, husk, straw, tree trimmings, wood chips, bones, feathers, hair, All these materials are biodegradable, but that will take time. It will take long time to get decayed or get decomposed. And putrescibles generally from our kitchen, that is vegetable waste, cooked food waste, or things like that, which get composted, which get decomposed in nature. Even we don't like, even if we do not manage it, it get composted in the nature. And there are highly putrescible which need special attention because they are nitrogen rich materials, like they are meat waste, mostly meat waste from the kitchen or from the shop, or from the like even the carcasses, or from the waste from the slaughterhouse. So there are three kinds of waste we have. And where is it coming from? Generally, it is coming from households. In many of the Asian cities, around I think 40 to 50% of this organic waste or the biodegradable waste are from the households. And the rest is coming from hotels, restaurants, community halls, eateries, etc. And then markets are the other major source of organic material. And farms, like the farms in the suburbs also produce a lot of organic part. Meat shops, fish shops, or slaughterhouse, dead animals. So we know, okay, where these materials are coming from. And composting. Let us just look at composting. What is composting? It's very simple. I am not taking you into the complicated science of composting because it is not the venue for that. People who are interested actually do more exploration into the science, the complicated science part of composting. So science is simply, it is the process of biological decomposition of organic matter to form humus-like material. So fundamentally, composting is a process which converts the biological material into humus. And humus is very important for life on Earth. And many people mistakenly they call compost as a fertilizer. If you technically, there is a difference between fertilizer and compost. Compost is not a fertilizer. Compost is fed soil. The primary purpose of compost is to improve the soil quality or improve the microorganic activities in the soil. So compost is something which is fed to the soil, but fertilizer is fed to a plant. So fertilizer is always like a plant specific. It is crop specific. You cannot just use one fertilizer which is used for one plant to another. So it is very plant specific. And compost is a soil conditioner. See, that is very important. Compost gives soil health. Fertilizer is an amendment that guarantees a minimum percentage of nutrients for a specific plant. So this is the difference. So please do not get confused about compost and fertilizer. So compost is very important because it nourishes the soil, it rebuilds the soil, and it actually supports the life on Earth. If you look at the science of composting, the composting process, we cannot say that it starts with the microorganisms like bacteria, protozoa, fungi, rotifers, but even before it starts. For example, a cow eats part of vegetable waste from the market, and it converts that into cow dung in, say, less than 20 hours. So one process is already done with the biological process within the cow's body, or it is fed to piggeries. In many places, it is fed to piggeries, most like market waste, especially the vegetable market. In the vegetable market, there are a lot of vegetable waste, or the food waste from the restaurants are fed to piggeries. In many cities, it is being practiced. So that is again another way of managing organic waste. And there, those animals, or in the poultry, they are using food waste. So this is the when you look at the decomposition process, it starts from the animals. So organisms like bacteria, protozoa, fungi, rotifers, these are all the microorganisms around us, which actually form like a kind of a colony, and they, as a team, they work together to deplete our organic material into basic elements to form the humus. So it is a complex process in nature which passes through different phases. It is not a kind of a very simple, okay, you just insert waste here and get compost out there. No, it passes through different biological processes. So important thing is that it is a biological process. A biological process, there is a time for each phase. So if something happens in one phase, to correct it, you have to wait for that time, like you have to allow that timing. So that is very important when you learn more about compost. So how to compost? So here you just look at, we know how to prevent composting or decaying, and we say that we do not know how to compost. For example, in our daily life, we keep our wooden furniture dry and sometimes coated with paints or other chemicals to prevent decomposing. So we know how to prevent our wooden furniture from decomposing. And we know how to keep or how to protect our leather products, like we do polishing, we brush it, we keep it. And we know how to preserve our veggies, extra veggies or fruits in refrigerator, how to prevent it from decomposing. And we know how to keep how to protect our grains from decomposing. Or we preserve things in salt or through smoking, like the meat is smoked or the fish are smoked. Or we do pickling, like we use salt and other stuff, or including sugar, to pickle, especially for vegetables or for fruit. So we know how to manage or how to prevent decomposition. And we also know about this microorganic organic activity in our daily life. Like we ferment milk to make curd or butter, and we know how to ferment some of the dough, like we make bread after like fermentation, or we make things like say beer or wine, like we make wine at home. That's again a kind of a microbial activity. So we know how to utilize that specific type of microorganism to ferment that into wine. Or we know which bacteria has to be used to convert that milk into butter or curd. So we know how to prevent decomposition and things that promote decomposition. So we know both. So composting is in between. So that's what I already stated in the first. See, we know how to do this. Okay. So you just look at the composting factors. Composting is if you to get a perfect compost, you need 4 elements to work together as a team. So the first thing is air, because we are talking about aerobic digestion. We are talking about aerobic composting. Aerobic composting is that the microbes, they are working in the presence of oxygen. So we are using aerobic microorganisms to do composting. So we need air, we need maximum air, and we need water in the form of moisture. We need moisture to be present in the material so that the microbes can survive. And we need microbes. Of course, we need microbes like bacteria, fungus. There are many kinds of bacteria, like there are lactic bacteria. There are a lot of other funguses are also available. And carbon. The microbes need energy. That energy comes from carbon. So if we can balance these 4 elements like air, water, microbes, and carbon, we can manage compost. So it's a very simple thing. The people who are listening to this webinar, I know you people are self-motivated and you want to try this home. And there are some people who want to take it to others. So people who want to take it to others, please do not scare the public, like just saying about all the sciences. Just say that, okay, let us do composting. So there are 4 components: air, water, microbes, and carbon. If you can manage these 4 elements, then composting will be done. That is very easy. When you talk about air, like if you just keep some food waste or some vegetable waste from our home in a container for composting, you have to know that there are some fundamental things. Like one, in the atmosphere, the air, the efficiency to penetrate into things, it goes down below 60 centimeters. So if you have a container which is deeper than 60 centimeters, and if you are trying to compost it, air will not reach to the bottom, and there aerobic composting will not happen. Instead, there will be anaerobic digestion will happen, and there it emits ammonia and hydrogen sulfide that stinks. So whenever the next time when you see a stinking compost, that means there is not enough air, there is not enough oxygen, and instead of aerobic decomposition, there is anaerobic decomposition is happening, and ammonia and hydrogen sulfide is coming out. So that is the index. If you get a stink, that means there is no there is no aerobic composition. So you have to either you have to reduce the depth, or you have to provide like you have to do some provisions to ensure air going in, like just inserting a pipe or just using a compressor to pump in air, or you have to layer it with some spongy materials like dry leaves, wood chips, things like that, or you have to turn the waste, like you have to, if it is in a heap, you have to turn once in a week or something like that, so that you are ensuring that air is reaching to every single particles of that material. And water is another part. You have to maintain the moisture level to 50%. It should not be more than 50%. It should not be less than 50%. If it is less than 50%, the material will dry and our microbes will not work. If it is more than 50%, air will not penetrate, and then anaerobic digestion will happen, and then that will lead to stink. So you have to maintain a 50. How do we know that this is 50%? So that is one issue. It's very simple. When you take some of the waste in your hand, if there is water dripping from your fingers, that means it is more than 50%. If there is not, it is still wet and it is not like if you are squeezing it, there is no water oozing out, that means it is 50%. So you know, like by on a daily basis, when you start doing it, you know that it is 50% or not. And if it is more than 50%, then you have to add some absorbing material, water absorbing materials like dry leaves, sawdust, or wood chips, or even rice husk, so that it can, or even some newspaper pieces, so that it can absorb extra water. And we need microbes for composting. Microbes, like it is already there in the nature. For example, it's plenty of microbes are there, like the composting microbes are there. If you go to a large tree in your neighborhood, and you just find the topsoil on the floor, you just skim that topsoil, and that actually have more bacteria. So you just use it as a kind of a starter for composting. You need not go to the shop and buy a composting culture. So it's very cheap. It's already available. And the best source of these compost microbes are cow dung. If you are in an Asian country and you have access to cows, that cow dung slurry, you just make a slurry out of cow dung, that gives you microbes for composting. And if you don't have that access to this material, then you can actually use fermented milk or curd or fermented food or even rotten veggies or fungus inflicted breads. All these things have this kind of a micro. So the microorganisms are there in our house, in our neighborhood. You have to just find out and then take them and then add it to a material, so that it will start getting composting. Even if you are not adding it, there will be composting, but that will be slow. To speed it up, you have to add these microbes. And if you are smart enough, you can make a perfect combination of all these bacteria, fungus, or rotifiers together. Then that actually speeds up, or that actually make it faster, lead to faster composting. That we will come to later in the later presentations, that will be there. And carbon, yes, 25 to 30 parts of carbon, 1 part of nitrogen is the optimum level. Like if you look at our organic materials, there are two things. Like one, there is carbon in it and there is nitrogen in it. So you have to maintain a balance between carbon and nitrogen, because to 1 part of nitrogen, to get it decomposed, you need 25 to 30 parts of carbon. So that is a kind of a, you need not to stick about like a very precise kind of stuff, but this is a simple rule of thumb. Okay, this is the kind of a formula for managing composting. How to identify that which is nitrogen rich and which is carbon rich? Dry or brown materials are carbon rich. Very simple. That is the rule of thumb. Dry or brown materials like grass, sawdust, rice husk, dry leaves, things like that. All these things are carbon. They are very rich in carbon. And juicy and wet materials, they are nitrogen rich. For example, vegetable or food waste, cooked food, meat waste, all these things are nitrogen rich. So when you have more nitrogen rich material in your compost pile, then you have to ensure that you are adding more and more dry leaves at this 25 to 30 parts, so that that can get managed in the compost pile. So there are like some challenging factors as well to this composting. One, it is the mindset. People always think that composting is a complicated process, so I don't want to get into it. So this is a kind of it's a prejudice. Basically, it is a prejudice, or I will say that it is a hurdle within us. It is not that there are no hurdles outside there to prevent a person from doing composting or trying composting at home or in his neighborhood. It is the mindset within which actually prevent people. Okay, people are afraid. And second thing is that is a global thing, that is NIMBY, not in my backyard. I don't want to see waste in my backyard. So that is a kind of a negative approach to the material management. And there is a misconception about health. People always link waste to health. And people see that, okay, if there is something stinking, so that is going to impact, that is going to create a problem for my health. So people have like, people want to have a kind of a sterile environment in their household or in their environment, in their neighborhood. So that is a kind of a misconception. See, in nature, everything is balanced. You cannot just live in a sterile world for a long time. And at least right now, we know that. And most of the people think that it is not my job. No, this is government's job, or this is the scavenger's job. It's not my job. See, composting is an important activity in this nature, and which is the basic of our the food cycle, or the nature's all the cycles begins with composting. And as a person, as an individual, as a citizen, it is our responsibility to ensure that this cycle is not broken. We have to maintain that cycle. So it is, of course, it is our job. So this is something which we have to talk to people. Like whenever we talk to people, we have to convince them that, okay, this is our time, or this is where this is our responsibility. And now just look at some of the equipments. See, composting is very simple. You can use pipes like this. Use a pipe so that you can put all your waste and then fill it with, layer it with dry leaves so that it will get compost. Or you can use earthen pots, which is available in your local market. Or you can go for fancy ready-made composting equipments like rotary drums or earthen pots again. Or you have this ready-made kitchen bin compost, which can be kept in the kitchen. Inside your kitchen, you can do compost. Like instead of having a waste bin in the kitchen, you have a compost drum in your kitchen, so that it on a real time it will get composted, or you have rotary bins. Or you can also go for neighborhood composting facilities like this. It's very simple aerobic composting bins which do not need turning of waste. So it need less what you call human resource. You don't need much labor to turn it. You don't turn it. You have to just take it out. If you look around, there are many kind of models available, and my friends will be talking about most of this model and its functions later, and we will discuss it later. And right now, I'm just dropping it here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shibu. I wasn't able to introduce Shibu earlier. Shibu is the GAIA India coordinator. He's also one of the pioneers of the zero waste movement in India, and used to lead the Zero Waste Campaign program of TANAL. His expertise is in organics management, and he helps design and develop zero waste systems at the community level. Our next speaker will be Saraswathi Devi Odian she is the education officer of Consumers Association of Penang, or CAP in Malaysia. She's also a resource person for their sustainable agriculture practices in CAP, which also looks at the problems with chemical farming and other issues. Please welcome Saras.
I'm going to share my screen. having problem sharing my screen. Hi, I cannot hear. Hi, can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you, Saras.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, and we see your screen.
All right. All right. Okay. Hi to everyone. Thank you for joining this organic waste management webinar. And earlier, the speaker Shibu was explaining about what is all compost about. And now I'm going to take all of you for a little journey how to do easy composting. Meaning
Saras? Saras, are you speaking? We can't hear you. I think Sarah got disconnected. Saras. Can we, Piki, how are you ready to do your presentation?
Yes, but I think I cannot share the video, just sharing my screen. Okay, so I will continue it.
Yes, please. Piki, go ahead. Piki. For those who have questions, maybe you can post your questions on the Q&A and chat box or chat box, so that maybe some of our presenters can respond to your questions while we're trying to fix the connections. We have we have a question from Daru. The question is, when we build communal compost heap, what is the maximum dimension for sufficient aeration? Is it okay to, oops, it disappeared from my screen. Is it okay to turn over once? You already answered? Yeah. Oh, okay,
yeah,
sorry.
I just answered. Oh, if you want to talk to people, I can just talk.
While we're not hearing from Piki and Saras, maybe we can answer it on audio so that the rest of the panel, the
Okay.
audience
There is
can
there is
hear.
a Yeah, so there is a question from Afroz Khan. Can you explain about leachate and effective usage of leachate? Yes, in composting, especially in the places where you have a kind of a very wet conditions, like towards the coastal cities or the coastal plains, the moisture level in the atmosphere is high, and due to that humid condition, the air cannot absorb the water in the composting process. Like in the composting process, the water will actually go out. So in those kind of places, the excess water will like that will leak out as kind of leachate. It's a kind of a it's a solution. It's a kind of a biological solution which comes out, and which is very rich in microbes, and which is very, like, the activity is very high. So these leachates, normally people use it as a kind of a fertilizer, or to like improve the soil health. But the problem is that if you are going to apply for plants directly, that will be a problem. Because just because its nitrogen carbon ratio is not maintained, it may harm the plant's growth. So it is always advised to dilute it with water. Like if you are getting the leachate, dilute it to 20 parts. So like if you got 1 liter of leachate, dilute it with 20 liters of water, and then sprinkle it on the soil, or sprinkle it over the plants. That will be good. And 20 is the maximum thing, and you can reduce it if the crops are so strong. For example, there are the if it is not the plantains or any other vegetables, for vegetables it should be 20 times, or something bushy or something other, the tree type cultivation you have, then you can use to 10 times of water.
Thank you, Shibu. I think Piki is ready now. Piki?
Okay.
Yeah, hi. Okay, I'll continue on my presentation. I think it's on the slide 3. Trish, can you help me? Yeah, so why compost? I will continue from there. Yeah. So why compost? Um, so for me, it's of course it's part of my zero waste cities research network, but on a deeper level, it has become a therapy for people to see their connection to the natural world. A compost bin provides a small encapsulated nature, yeah, where you can see all the microbes and the small animals eating out our organic waste, or creating the compost, and which we can later use to grow our food. It also become an entry point to a wider and deeper discussion like resiliency, sustainability, regeneration, and it's also scalable. You can do it at home, in your community, or even citywide. And you can, yeah. For me personally, I wanted to liven up my soil because I want to produce as much food from my own garden. Um, so, in which I believe my soil can be better than its current and previous status. So a little bit of my life in next slide, please, Trish. A little bit of me and my life. I now live in a coastal area in East Java. You can see it on the map. My home is just around 5 kilometers away from the ocean. So the soil is very sand and clay in the dry season, and the groundwater is really affected by tidal wave, and the water becomes a bit salty, and so does the soil. My garden was before a paddy field, but covered with clay ground when the house was built, so nothing can grow well except grass and bushes. So to achieve my dream to grow as much food for me, first I need to restore the fertile soil back. But like most urban people do, I work full time and sometimes are away from home for several weeks. So I needed a way, I needed a way to for the soil to improve itself. So I just can occasionally jumping in whenever I have spare time. Next slide. From what I know from my training is that to improve soil, we have to grow them. I think soil is like our bodies. We need to feed our bodies to be able to grow. And the food for the soil is actually the organic waste from another organism, as you can see in the picture. The feeding process is the breaking down of this organic waste by so many soil animals and microbes. We call these processes as composting. By the way, this is the conceptual basis for the zero waste. There is no waste in nature. So next slide. So to improve my soil, I needed the right approach. It has to be as simple as possible. It can be done quickly. It has to be error-proof, especially smell. And if there's an error, and in case I'm not home, then anybody can fix it quickly. I also have to start from what I have, especially my kitchen organic waste, with some imported materials from my neighbors, like grass clippings and twigs, um, some cut leaves from the trees just around the neighborhood. So, and the process also has to attract soil animal and microbes in the same time, but also to prevent rodent or fly, please, because I see many concern about composting is related to rodent or fly. So I try to prevent that. So next slide. So my composting choice falls on what is called cold composting. So unlike most of what we know about composting, cold composting is just slightly heated. It's not really hot like if you have a fast composting, a big compost pile. The temperature probably only reach around 30 or a maximum 40. And the breaking down of the organic waste was mostly done by fungus on these soil creatures like in the pictures. But the shortcoming of this method are that it requires more time compared to the hot composting method. If you have small space but needed to process many waste, then you cannot. Probably this is not a good option. And also it produces half-baked compost. I mean, half-baked is not really become compost yet. And also it doesn't kill seeds. So I usually find a seedling of fruit or plant or vegetable in my compost and just put it away on my garden. So next slide. So to prevent rodent, I have to contain the composting process. So I use two of these 20 liters bucket, 5 gallons paint bucket, I think. These 20 liters of bucket can contain almost a month of my daily kitchen waste. So I use two buckets so that I can fill up one bucket and let it sit for a while I fill up another one. I have 3 members of family in my home, and we cook our meals every day. So if you have larger families, you might need a bigger bucket or more buckets rather than two. I also use the 20-liter bucket so that I can easily lift them or move them around, empty them to start another batch. To prevent flies, I keep the cap of the bucket, but not too tightly, just enough to prevent flies and rainwater from flooding my compost because I put it outside of my house. I also punch holes on the bottom to drain out, but I also want to keep the moisture as it's important for the composting process, like Shibu said earlier. Lately, I also use char to regulate moisture, prevent smell, and provide a nice home for the fungus. I also put twigs on the bottom to absorb excess moisture. Uh, Plus some soil. So I use some soil to cover my organic waste, preferably compost from the previous process to cover my organic waste. Compost also provide necessary microbes to start the process. So I guess I have to do the demo now. Yeah. Let's hope that it's okay. So I start. Can you people see me now?
Yes, go ahead, Piki.
Yeah. So I use this is about half of my daily waste, organic waste, and what I do is I just put it in the bucket. You cannot see the bucket. Just put it in the bucket like this, and then I'll make it. I will spread it so that it's not just spread it on the bucket, and then put 2 or 3 part of this compost, just to cover not only to cover the waste, uh, so the smell cannot go out, and because the smell will attract flies and rodents, so I need to make sure that the waste is already all covered up by some soil. So that's like this. You cannot, if you can't see the waste already, then I think it's enough for me. And then I just put the cap on, put the lid like this, not too tight, just like this, so that the air can still come in, but the rain is contained. It's not going in, and also the fly cannot go inside. I do some. I do have found some egg of the black soldier fly, but it's also special because it doesn't really interrupt with us. It doesn't affect our health, but it can speed up the breaking down of the organic waste in the bucket. And they don't put their eggs in the waste. So they will just put the eggs on the lid. Usually I find it like here on the side. And the end process of that is I get you can see the result. You can see it clearly probably, but I have the compost that I make is this is 1 month old. It's already become like an earth, like a soil. But yes, you can see like this chicken bones. It's really hard to decompose. It's I think it's a source for calcium, slowly release the calcium. Also, things like this, the eggshells, also hard to break down. So I think that's it. It's really easy for me. That yeah, the lazy gardener. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Piki. Okay, we will now proceed with Saras. Saras, are you ready? Saras, can we start with your presentation?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I'm sharing the screen. Okay. Sorry about just now. There was a sudden power cut in my office, and we have tried other mode of reaching this webinar. And earlier, I think our friends like Shibu and Vicky have spoken about what is compost all about and some methods. And now I'm going to take all of you for a little journey for an easy composting method, especially which will be useful during our MCO time. All right. When we talk about composting, it is also come together with urban garden. And today what I'm going to share with all of you is one method called comfort composting in pot. We have given the name comfort because it's very easy to do. So that's the catchy word we are trying to use so that many people will get convinced when they see that word. Then they will try out composting. And there is also another system called 7-pot system, which I'll be sharing with you all later. And lastly, something to do with ring garden, which is an animation set, which I'll be sharing with you all during the slide show. All right. Okay, I'm going to start off with this comfort composting in pot. And we are suggesting this composting method because it's very easy to maintain. Whenever we talk about compost, many people from my experience handling community, teaching them about urban garden, they get discouraged when we talk about composting because they say it involves a lot of work. But the system which we're going to share with you today will be very easy to maintain. That's the reason we are calling it as a comfort composting. And it will be very perfect for apartments and flats because the units won't have much space. So this comfort composting will be easier for them to apply. And it's very little work involved. So we always, especially women, will be very busy doing a lot of things. So it will be very little work for them when they do this kind of comfort composting. And it is also very ideal for the small families, member of 2 or 3, because the volume of the waste they produce is very little. And in this system, the soil can absorb the nutrients by itself, and it can feed the plants. Okay, the slides, later slides will show you how it works. And the important part of this system is you can get your children involved, especially during this MCO time. Our children are not going to school, so you can get them involved in this system, right? Okay, how it works, all you have to do is you have to get a pipe. The pipe can be any material. It can be made of bamboo or any firm cardboard, and any PVC, used PVC pipes. It can be 3 inches diameter or 4 inches diameter, or bamboo of any size. All right, you can choose this kind of material. And the height of the pipe, it will be ideal if you can choose between 1.5 to 2 feet. Between this height will be very ideal for any medium sized pots. All right. So how you also can use reuse the drinking water bottle before you send for recycling. You can put it into good use by using it as a pipe for the comfort system. All right, but you need to cut the bottle head, and the next picture will show you that you need to drill holes at the bottom. This is the bottle which you have to cut the top, and we have to drill several holes around the pipe. All right, these holes will be taking about 2 to 3 inches space of the bottom of the pipe, and this holes which are making it on this pipe can be different sizes. Doesn't matter it's big or small, but several holes are important for this. And this is how it will look. Once you drill your holes, it will be looking like this. Material like PVC and bamboo, you will need some kind of equipment, a drill machine to make holes. But if you are using the water bottle, you just can hit up any nail and then you can pick the hole very easily, right? Okay, now, once your pipe is ready, this is the picture showing a pot with a plant. So the first one is showing you how to insert the pipe slowly. When you want to insert this pipe into a pot which already have a plant, you have to do it very gently so that you do not disturb the root system of the plant. So you do it very gently, slowly, you place it in and then push it in until all the holes go down. The purpose of the holes here is for aeration, and also when you put your garden waste into the pipe, naturally there will be a lot of leachate which will be absorbed by the soil. All right, this is how it will look once you push your pipe inside the pot, and your system is ready for your composting. Okay, and this is another model where we are using the bamboo for pennywort plant. Very gently they are inserting the pipe. And now your kitchen waste, this is your kitchen waste, looks nice, very colorful. All right, okay, now for this system, even for the 7-pot system, always remember the rules for the compost system for household purpose. The waste has to be in small pieces. The smaller the waste are, the faster the system works. Okay, it will break down very fast. So if your kitchen waste are in bigger pieces, just cut it into small pieces and then you just drop it inside the pipe. All right, this is how you drop it. And once you put your waste inside the pipe, and then you just cover it up, because normally your pots will be you'll be putting it outside. To prevent excess rainwater entering inside, you just cover it up with any cover. The cover we have used here is the bottom is we cut it off from the bottle, or you can use coconut shell or anything just to cover up the waste. Once you put the waste inside the pipe, you just cover it up, and then you keep adding the waste day by day. Okay, now if you want to speed up your composting process, it will be good if you can add on some enhancer. Here I have two different enhancer. I call this diluted FEM, is farmer's EM, effective microorganism, and this is diluted yogurt. All right. If you want a recipe for how to make diluted FEM, I have a web link here. Later you can check it out, the recipe. But yogurt, I think very easily we can get it at home. Even if you can't use your yogurt, after you finish up your yogurt, when you want to rinse the container, you rinse the container, use that water, you put little water in the, what you call the waste which you dump. This will help to speed up the process, all right? In composting, one important rules we have to remember is, when you are using kitchen waste, the water content of the kitchen waste is very high, because we have a lot of fruit peels and vegetable peels which have the water content very high, meaning nitrogen level will be very high. So when the water is getting too much, your compost will start smelling. So in composting, when you're collecting your organic material, it has to decompose, not rotting. Rotting meanings it's already setting bacteria inside and it will produce smell. So we always remember that we manage our water correctly. If you feel the waste you're dropping into the pot has a lot of water content material, you try to avoid putting the microbe enhancer, because this one will be done on daily basis. When you're putting in your compost into the pipe, it is happening on daily basis. Slowly you're putting it in every day. Let's say you're having more than one pots. We have different model here. This is PVC, bamboo, cardboard, and the drinking water bottle. All right, now after you keep on adding your compost, and once the pipe get full, and this is another picture where we have used the drinking water bottle, and then this method will be very good for children to observe. You can get your children to observe how the decomposing process taking place, because this is transparent. You can encourage your children to do their science experiment when you are doing this at home, because it's very attractive. You can see it very clearly. And then when they keep adding the waste, they can see what is happening to the bottom one when the top one is being filled up with a new one. All right. Okay, now coming back to the compost again. Once your pipe gets full day by day, when it's completely full, you just leave the pipe like that. You do not add on any more waste until after a few weeks. If you see some more space there, you still can hold on to that. You wait for 1 or 2 months, just leave it like that, and after that your compost will be ready for harvesting. This is how it would look after about 2 months. All right. And then when you want to remove your pipe from the pot, you have to do it very gently, because you are not supposed to hurt the plant here. And then you remove it, and then you try to drop down all the waste by just knocking it. And then you see, very gently they are trying to knock it. You see, when you remove your pipe, you can see a lot of soil here. This is the soil which is stick to the pipe, because you are taking out from the pot. And then this part of the soil will be very hard. So you use a trowel to just knock it down. And once all the compost is out of the pipe, you can add on all the compost to other pots. Just distribute the compost evenly to other pots, and then put it back your the pipe again into the pot, and you start your compost again. The system starts again. So it's very simple. When you're having this kind of system, it will be good if you can have more than one pot. Definitely with one pipe, with one pot, your waste won't be able to accommodate. So at least several pots, about 5 to 6 pots with this kind of system, it will be very easily managed. And then you don't have, in this system, you don't have to mix your waste. You don't have to really take care of your waste. Once you dump inside, you cover it, you can forget about it until it gets harvested. Okay, I hope this system is very clear, explained to you. And I'm going to introduce to you another system called 7-pot system. This 7-pot method was introduced by Professor Sultan Ismail from India, and this is a very simple system. In fact, he's my guru for domestic unit composting. All right. Okay. Now, this 7-pot system again is very ideal for small families. But if you are having a bigger family, then you have to have larger pots. All right. All you have to do is you collect 7 pots, you get it ready, and you label it accordingly as what is written here. Again, you can get your children involved in this kind of activity, which will be a learning for them. And once your pots are ready with a label, and then you need to prepare some pebbles, gravel, sand, and soil. All right, these 3 items are very important for this system. And once this is ready, you just fill up the base as the gravel. The purpose of we are putting the gravel here is to excess water to run down, because you are going to add on compost into that, and you will top it up with sand. All right, the bottom layer is sand about 1 inch, and pebbles 1 inch, and gravel 1 inch. You add on some soil into that. 3 layers. Remember, the bottom is the gravel 1 inch, followed by sand 1 inch, and the garden soil 1 inch. So you are preparing your pots to receive the compost. Once your pots are settled like this, all the 7 pots should have the same way of setting. The 3 layers will be set on the same day, because you already label it accordingly. Once all these are ready, now today, let's say you're cooking today. Today is Tuesday. I will collect all my kitchen waste for Tuesday. I will just dump it into the pot which is a label as Tuesday. And when I do my cooking tomorrow, tomorrow's waste will go into the Wednesday pot. Meaning, by the time my next set of kitchen waste entering this pot, it will take 1 week. That means whatever waste I dump on the first day, it will be started decomposting. All right. Okay. Now, when you put your compost material into the pot, you need to sprinkle little amount of soil. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the kitchen wastes are very high in water content. We try to put little soil so that the extra, what you call moist will be absorbed by the soil. All right, so that your what you call your waste doesn't get rotten. All right. Then the next what you call slides is showing you this is how it will look after 1 week. Okay, this is without the soil on the top. We simply took the picture to show you. This is how it will look after the following week. Let's say today is Tuesday. When I look at my waste on next Tuesday, this is how it's supposed to look because it's the decomposing process already started taking place. All right. So in this manner, you are organizing your kitchen waste very systematically. You just keep dumping it. And in between, you can sprinkle a little water as needed. All right. You have to see that it's not with too much of water. If you feel it's too dry, because when the compost materials are too dry, the decomposing process will be slower down. So the moist has to be maintained, but not too dry, but not too watery also. And turn it occasionally. When you're turning it, try not to disturb the layer, the sand and the pebbles. Just turn your well from time to time so that all the waste get mixed up easily. And then you can add on, as I mentioned earlier, some yogurt or FEM to speed up the composting process. Again, please remember that your water content you have to monitor properly and try not to have too much of water. If you want to know when it's getting too much of water, if you take your waste and if you squeeze, if the water is coming out, that means the water content is too high and the possibility of your waste getting rotten is very high at this stage. So you have to monitor. As long as you can monitor your waste, then it will be very easily get decomposed. All right. Okay. Now, this is how it will look after the after our compost get what you call composted. Okay. Now, at this stage, when we are putting the compost every day, every weekly, once your pot is full already, after that you stop putting in more waste. All right, that means when your 7 pots are completely full, you are stop putting your waste into that. And then you wait for about 20 days, 20 to 25 days, or 15 to 20 days. It's all, again, depends on the waste you are throwing it in. If you can shred your waste into smaller pieces, the composting process will be very fast. Within 15 days or within 20 days, your compost will be ready in all 7 pots. All right. And then once the compost is ready, again, you have to mix with some little amount of soil. And then your pot is ready to sow your seeds. Okay, this is very simple. All the 7 pots, you can get it ready at the same time because you keep dumping it. And after all the pots are full, you leave it for about 20 days. In between, you mix it well. And then add some little soil because every layer when you're putting your compost, you're also adding little amount of soil. And then when your compost is ready, you're adding more garden soil, little bit of garden soil, you mix it. So this, and then you straight away going to sow your seeds. Okay, this is okra seed. So you can sow your seed and then you can water your plant and all your 7 pots are ready to grow some kind of vegetables. So for this kind of system, you need not yet to have any amount of compost after this because you already added enough compost and then the plant can grow well. In between, if you let's say plants like chili and all, we can manage very well. It can go on up to about 6 months. It may need more added compost. You can always take it from other compost material and you dump into that. And then when you're for this system, once this is planted, you get ready another 7 pots, and then you start this process again. That means when the 7 pots are full, you arrange another 7 pots. So once you planted your seeds inside here, and then the other 7 pots composting system will be taking place. When that one gets full, then another 7 set will be ready for you to grow your vegetable. And this one again, you can start off. I hope you can understand this. And okay, then last, and for both this 7-pot system and comfort composting, we have a video clipping, which the link will share with you. I don't know if the organizer allow us with ample of time, we can view that. And lastly, I would like to show you a animation picture of ring garden. Ring garden is for those who are living in landed property. This is very simple. As I mentioned earlier, all the system which I'm introducing today, I'm trying to introduce a simple way of doing composting. Okay, now ring garden, all you have to do is, oh my God, the animation not working. I'm sorry, my animation is not working, but let me explain how it works. Just short while. I don't know, I'm taking time, I think. Okay, for this ring garden, it's very simple. You choose a nice area in your garden where you have good soil, meaning where you can grow your plant, all right? The size of the area you're going to choose is about 3 feet. Actually, it's a nice animation, but my animation is not working on this Google sharing. All right, you choose an area of about 3 feet, and then you start what you call removing the soil in the center. All right, removing the soil meaning you're digging it about 1.5 feet inside. When you start digging the soil here, whatever soil you are digging, just mount it around this area. All right, you just mount it around. This is about 3 feet, and your depth of the hole will be about 1.5 feet. And the shape of this ring garden will look like a frying pan. All right. Once, just imagine, once you already dig a hole, the soil is mounted around this area, and then the hole is inside here. You can keep dumping your kitchen waste inside. All right. Again, the same rules. If you can cut it into small pieces, the decomposing process will be faster. You just keep adding it, and then in between you can put some yogurt or whatever and the FEM to speed up the process. In about 20 days, you can start growing your vegetables around this area, meaning the root of the plant will take the nutrient from here. Okay, this is something very simple, and you can apply it if you are living in a landed property. And if you think that your area will get a lot of rain and it might collect inside, you just cover it up with a wire mesh, which has very small holes. You cover up the entire area. So this is called a ring garden, which is also another easy way of maintaining it. You don't, occasionally you can mix the waste here. All right. And one more thing, lastly, I would like to add is when you are practicing composting, if you are a beginner, you try to use only vegetarian materials. That doesn't mean non-veg materials are not compostable. It is compostable, but if you do not know how to manage it, it can produce a lot of smell and it can attract flies and you will get discouraged. So you start off with vegetable peels, fruit peels. You can use nutshell, eggshell, all that you have to crush and put it in. Even for eggshell, I will say you rinse it, then you put it in. Because what we are talking here is domestic unit, meaning it is close by to your house. You are going to do it, you'll be doing it in your apartment, your condominium. So we have to make sure that it doesn't produce any smell, so that everyone will be comfortable with what we are doing. All right. And then the next one will be the video sharing on, I think I already taken time.
Yeah,
You?
Sarah's,
Yes.
we can share the link later
All right.
because we're running out of time.
All right.
Yeah, just we will put it on our Facebook account so that our participants can view it.
All right.
Is that okay?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much. Do you have additional or?
No, I think we'll end it here.
That's your, okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you to all our presenters. We have time for a few questions. We already have a couple of questions here. What are the problems encountered in the early stages of composting? Can somebody ask or respond to that, please? Problems encountered in early stages of composting. Who wants to take that?
I think I can take it. Oh, maybe Shibu, okay.
Yeah, I'll just give and then Saras can answer. Hi, yeah. The first thing is that when you start composting, it is like something which we are learning. See, you have to complete at least 2 cycles of composting. Like if you are doing a composting like what Saras showed, like a kind of a pipe or in a pot, if you are doing a composting, you have to give that patience to complete 2 cycles. That means around 60 to 90 days. So by that time, you will know, because the compost from house to house, it will differ. That's one thing. So you have to have that patience to work with a compost system for at least 60 days to get used to it. Then you will have that confidence. Second, the major issues in the tropical region is that there will be like especially just before the monsoons, there will be onset of black soldier fly. People are actually very afraid of getting this black soldier fly into their compost. Like when they do composting, they can see millions of maggots just swarming around the compost, and people are scared to manage, and people even just call for help. Actually, even some people have the problem of house flies as well. So the basic thing is that one, the vegetable or the fruits which you are buying from the market, when you are bringing it to your home, their peels already have the eggs of the house flies or even the black soldier fly, because they are kept in the open. The vegetables in the market, normally they are kept in the open. So these flies, it is easy for them to just lay their eggs. It's their natural process so that their egg hatches and get their food. So that is one. And when it comes to our home and when we do the cleaning or when we peel it, we get the peels. And most of the time, most of the households, they keep all these food waste in a bin, in a basket. Mostly it is open, and it is kept open for at least 3 to 4 hours. So that is enough time for any these kind of flies to come in and then lay their eggs. And when you move this material into your compost, it will take at least 3 days to get it composting. Like the composting, the initial process and the initial heat will happen only after 3 days. So within these 3 to 4 days, most of these eggs will get hatched, and there will be this maggots. So that is the issue. So you have to understand that it is not from the compost, it is actually from the food you are buying in, have that eggs. And if you look at the black soldier fly, they are not our enemies, they are our friends. They actually speed up the composting by eating it up. So they eat the food waste very fast. And these, if you like, in many places, the black soldier fly, we call it as BSF. The black soldier fly larvae are fed as like they feed their chicken with this larvae. It is very what you call that protein-rich food for especially for chicken. And most of the time, all these larvae die inside the compost when the compost get heats up. So most of them will die inside, and something around like less than 100 larvae will survive, and they fly out as black soldier fly. The black soldier fly do not harm any human being. They do not sting, they do not bite, and they do not carry any diseases. So you need not worry about it, and they don't get into your house. They always prefer to be outside the house, and their lifespan as a fly is less than a week. So they just find their mate, do mating, and then lay eggs, and they die. So this is the process. So these are the some areas where people find it very difficult. And the other issue is the stink. Most of the time, the compost will get a stink. That is because there is no proper aeration. That is why if you look at like if you go back to Sarah's presentation, she was ensuring that you have to turn it. You have to, when you turn it, there will be aeration, and that will actually keep away the stink. I think the rest of the thing Sarah can manage the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shibu. Saras, there's a question here. Could we substitute diluted yogurt ecoenzyme or FEN?
Yes, of course you can do that. Shouldn't be a problem. You can replace it with enzyme. Whichever available, accessible to you, you can use it.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? We don't. How much time do we have? We have 2 minutes. I think we should wrap up then. We'd like to thank everybody who participated in today's webinar. If you have additional questions, please do visit the GAIA Asia Pacific Facebook account and post more questions there. And for those questions that maybe weren't answered, we will also try to answer them at the GAIA account. So you have the Facebook account, Twitter is at Zero Waste Asia, and Instagram is Zero Waste Asia. So thank you very much to our speakers, Shibu, Piki, and Saras. We apologize for all the technical problems we've been having so far. That's the reality of our world today. We will try to improve our technical capabilities in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.